Hello, welcome to Billy Goat Wargaming. It's Sean here. I hope everyone is safe, staying healthy, that you're keeping alert, that we're tackling this virus and that we all come through the other side and hopefully have many days of meeting up together in the future to look forward to. It looks like this year is going to be pretty much a washout for any face-to-face events, whether that's wargame shows or event days or competitions or just larger social gatherings where we play toy soldiers together. So in light of that and the continuing lockdown, I thought I'd post up something or a few videos of some solo play, which will primarily be with the aim of showing off some of the Peter Pig games and rules by virtue of a full game. Now, whether my phone is up to recording a full game, whether I'm up to playing a full game on my own, I don't know, but let's see how it goes. I know there's one or two people out there who are doing this, and in the past a chap by the name of Ralph Astley has posted up one or two videos, and we've got the Storm of Steel YouTube channel as well, which recently has been doing some lovely solo battles to keep everybody hopefully entertained for a short while in lieu of any real-time gaming. So without getting into too much detail and the sorry tale, but last year I ended up losing quite a few figures from my collection. Oddly enough, one of those wasn't those figures weren't AK47, although I've got some unpainted figures for AK47. I hadn't got actually a current painted up AK47 army. Now, I have had them in the past, both for this version of the rules, which is the original AK47 Republic, and for the later AK47 Reloaded edition. However, a rather large collection came up for sale on eBay, along with a much older version of the rules than this, which I suspect was an original version of the rules from 1997. These are, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, are a reprint from 2006, which I've got basically all the extra bits and pieces that were developed from the original release in 97 added in, and in fact the rules been tidied up, there's photographs added. I suspect the points lists were altered slightly here and there, and just some clarifications. I think this was considered at the time the definitive version of AK47, prior to the rewrite, which in truth is a different game to this. The one or two of the mechanics remained, but I think it needs to be considered as a different game, with the same heritage and the same lineage, but the way that you play Reloaded is somewhat different to this. AK47 had a real cult following in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it really is considered a classic for those that have played it. The chaotic nature of what is war level battles in Africa is perfectly represented by this set of rules, and in fact there's many variants of this set of rules developed for World War II or Russian Civil War, Spanish Civil War. I saw a variant, even an Ancients set, although I never saw it. I did hear that somebody converted this set of rules to play Ancients with. enough of a ramble. This isn't a review of these rules, as good as they are. But having picked up this rather large collection for next to nothing on eBay, I thought what better thing to do than to actually have a nostalgia trip and use this set of rules, use the original set of rules. I can't seem to put my hand on them at the moment. They're somewhere in my office, but I can't quite recall where they are. But to use the original rules rather than reloaded and play a game. And not just play a game, but go through the whole thing. So this first video, which I don't want to be too long, will go through the creation of the two nations that are going to be involved, the flag, and the name of the force that is going to fight. Because we need a flag to fight for, we need a cause to fight for, and AK47 gave you this, because if we look here, we have generate a flag for your force and give the country a name. But before I'm going to do this, the first bit that comes is actually to roll for the flag, but I'm not going to roll for that just yet. I want to see what the name of my country is that we're going to be fighting in. Now this is going to be a civil war between the dictatorship and the People's Popular Front, and there might be some intervention from a superpower backed client state and a corporate type army as well, which I'll go into a bit more detail on another video. But these are integral parts of the rules, which is what makes Peter Pig, I think, stand out from most other rules writers, that this is really the fun aspect. So we've got, I mean, of course you can make up your own name for your own country. This is Imaginations at its most imaginative. Imaginations is a concept that sort of swept the wargaming world. I can't think when, years and years ago. Henry Hyde of Battle Games with his Fultonian Succession games using Spencer Smith miniatures. He was a big proponent, and you go back all the way to Charles Grant, I suppose, of the war game with his two fictitious countries. But any quick search across the internet will find lots and lots of blogs and examples of people making up their own nations, mainly to fight 18th century warfare type battles, sort of Middle Europe fights for supremacy from two fictitious countries. But AK47 Republic did this when it was first launched in 1997. As I say, this is an update that came in 9 years later, but it gives you a random country generator name, the name of your force. On this table here, you roll 3 times to create the name of your force. So we're going to be creating 2 forces today, 1 country, but 2 flags, because the sort of separatist faction within this imagination is going to have generated its own flag for its own cause. So without further ado, I've got this lovely little dice tray here and some Peter Pig dice. So we roll 3 dice, or roll 1d6 3 times to give us the name of the force. So we get a 2. So our country's name starts with a Z. We roll a 6, so it's Zetum. This is very familiar territory now. This is bringing back real nostalgia. Zetumni. Zetumni? That sounds fine, doesn't it? Zetumni. We'll say that is Zetumni. So, welcome to the small backwater Central African, or no, let's say West Coast African nation of Zetumni, which is about to experience, I'm afraid, a period of civil war. Okay, so the 2 major, or the 2 initial factions that are going to fight in the first battle of the Civil War is the dictatorship and the People's Popular Front. So within the rules there are 5 archetype armies that you can use. So if we look at composition of forces, it'll be somewhere around there, I guess. There we go, page 11. So each force starts with 600 points. You have 5 units. Of those 600 points, you spend some between 25 and 90 points on what's called political points. And I'll come more to that in a moment. There's your points list. But these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 army lists that you can use out of the main rules. And I'm going to show you something else where there's a couple of extra lists that look like they would be quite fun. So we have a religious movement, the colonial power or settlers army, which would be your white Africans, if you think Rhodesians, that sort of thing. The People's Popular Front, which can be nationalist or communist. The dictatorship and the superpower-backed client force. Each has got their own restrictions on how you can build your army. If we take a quick look though at this supplement, the AK47 supplement. Now this is my original supplement that came with these, although it says 1999. I'm not sure that this wasn't a reprint because as you can see this is laminated, and in the collection that I purchased off eBay both the rules and the supplement are non-laminated. So I'm not quite sure when Martin and Peter Pig decided to start laminating the rules, obviously for to make them far more hard wearing. But the tagline here says for African forces from 1990. Now I don't see any reason why you can't use these for African forces from the 70s or 80s. This is an imagination after all. So this supplement does add in some extra force types, and we've got the dictator's rump, so that's after the dictatorship within the country has been beaten or ran out of money, or is basically the back end of the remnants of what would have been the dictatorship. And then we've got the corporate army. Now that's quite interesting, the corporate army, because there's quite a good descriptor in here about the mercenary armies that rose up in the 90s that usually worked for large multinational corporations or governments, and it was really about taking, holding and stealing, I guess, the minerals in the land that Africa had to offer. But there's a couple of examples here of executive outcomes being predominantly Angolan, officered by former South African officers, that were made up mainly of demobilised South African Defence Force units such as 32 Buffalo Battalion, Covert, REC and REC squadrons, and the Civil Corporation Bureau. And then another example being UNITA in Angola, or Renamo in Mozambique. So that's quite an interesting concept, I think, for a game. Then we've got African Warlord, which following the collapse of several African states, it was profitable for would-be warlords. And then we have hardened insurgents. Now I think this might start to get a little bit political with events that followed the 1990s, but again, insurgency groups remained fighting for some time. This is sort of post-colonial Africa, comprising of two main groups: former communist and secessionist armies such as EPLF, and the former South African destabilisation armies such as UNITA and Renamo. So there's a lot. Oh, and the African Intervention Force as well, actually, which talks here about The increasing number of small wars around Africa has led to an increase in peacekeeping duties. Africa's been largely successful in undertaking such actions, with Ghanaians and Zimbabweans amongst the most used troops. These are professional soldiers and are not included in this army. Rather, this particular faction is designed to represent the economically governed peacekeeping forces, such as the Nigerians and Sierra Leone. So again, a little bit more option, a few more options, sorry, there to choose. But for this first game and the start of this campaign in Zatumni, we are going to be just using the armies out of the main book. So we need now to work out what the what the name of the two forces are. So as you can see, the list here, it goes from 1-1 to 1-6, 2-1 to 2-6, and so on through all the way to 6-6. So it's the roll of 2 dice, and the first number will be the black dice and the second number will be the pink dice. So the dictatorship will be made up of a phalanx in its name. Interesting, bit of a classical theme there. 26 sons. Now the rules say that you arrange these 3 words into some suitable sounding faction. So we have alliance, sons and phalanx. So what could that be? That could be the alliance of the phalanx sons, or the sons phalanx alliance, or the phalanx sons alliance. I think we'll have phalanx sons alliance. Now historically, when you go back to the likes of BricsCon, which was a lovely event day run by Graham Evans in Northamptonshire, and we played I think 3 games of AK47 in a day, but they were on a 4-foot square table rather than 6x4. I'm probably going to play this game on a 5x3. My table in the office is 5x3. I can put MDF across the top to make it 6x4, but I think just for the purposes of solo play and being able to capture the action, I'm going to use 5x3. But those factions at BricsCon, they had quite a few cheeky faction names, such as the FART, whatever that might have been, or the TWAT, all very good fun. Right, so the dictatorship force that will be going into battle will be the Phalanx Sons Alliance. Goodness knows what that means. The People's Popular Front, however, will be all Marxist, so I think we've determined the political thoughts of this organisation. 6-6 intervention. You won't see that roll very often by my dice. And finally, workers. Well, that all works out rather good. So we've got markers, intervention, Marxist, intervention, workers. So that could be workers, intervention, the workers, Marxist intervention, or the intervention workers, Marxist intervention workers, I think we'll have, which is how it came out. So there we go. Okay, so now we've got the name of the country and the 2 factions that are going to be fighting over that, we're going to decide on the flag. So the Zatumni national flag, then we will roll for first. Zatumni national flag. So every force needs a flag or banner in order to identify itself on the world stage. Players might even make a flag for their models or similar on the war games table. Very nice. The flag consists of 3 aspects: the flag background, the motif or emblem, and then the flag colour. So the flag background means the main part of the flag upon which symbols or other details are placed. So we'll have for the national flag, then we've got a 2. So the flag is a vertical tricolour, much like the French flag. Very good. There may be a motif or an emblem on there, and it tells us there's an animal on there, which could be a lion or a gazelle. But we are playing a Peter Pig set of rules, so that animal is going to be a pig, or a boar maybe. And what I'm going to do is just knock these up quickly in Paint, I think, on Microsoft, and I'll see if I can add them into a corner of the video, either here, 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 or here. Okay, so let's see what colours. Thirdly, the colour must be considered. So the first colour, we need 3 colours. We've got red. So going left to right, the flag is red. It's blue in the middle. And it's red. So it's a red, blue, red tricolour with a pig or a boar on it. So that's the Zatumni national flag. The People's Popular Front, the Marxist intervention workers, however, they have come up with their own flag, which looks like, well, that comes up another tricolour. Let's have another one. There we go. This is a horizontal tricolour. Okay, and they've got no motif or emblem, that's fine. Their colours, though, are red, obviously sticking a little bit with the national flag there. Black and green, red, black, green. That's colourful. So there we go. For this campaign set in the small forgotten nation of Zatumni, we've got a dictatorship which is clearly taking all the resources from the nation and spending it on a chosen few, on diamonds, I would imagine, and trading in weapons and arms and no doubt other nefarious black market industries. They've caused the population of Zatumni to become rather upset with their lot in life, and the Marxist intervention workers of the People's Popular Front have risen up, and there's going to be a clash of arms, which hopefully you will see next. During the next video I will introduce you to the 2 leaders of those factions, and perhaps talk to you a bit more about what Zatumni is all about, and let's see where we can go with this and have a little bit of fun remotely through lockdown. It looks like it's going to continue for some time, albeit that the restrictions are getting lifted. I think the time when we're going to be able to meet up and play games together is still some way off. So I hope you've enjoyed that. See the birth of a nation, the basis for conflict within that nation between the Phalanx Alliance and the Marxist intervention workers, who've now both got flags to fight for and fight over. So we'll see what happens next. Catch you next time. Thank you.